this is your host, Nisa Harris, and you are listening to Shomea Ve'ona, Tehillim and Other Hebrew Texts podcast, episode 8. The following is the recitation of the 5th Psalm, aka Perek or Mizmor HEH. After the recitation, stay tuned to hear more about this Mizmor. Mizmor HEH 5. Lamnatseach el hanechilot. Mizmor LeDavid. Amarai ha'azina Adonai. Bina hagigi. Hakshiva lekol shav'i. Malki ve'elohai. Ki elecha et palal. Adonai boker tishma koli. Boker e'erach lecha. Ve'atzapeh. Ki lo el chafetz resha. Ata lo yigorcha ra. Lo yityatzvu holilim leneged einacha. Saneta kol poale aven. Te'abed dovrei kazav. Ish damim umirma. Yita'ev Adonai. Ve'ani berov chastecha. Avo beitecha. Eshtachaveh el hechal kadshecha. V'yiratecha. Adonai necheni b'tzidkatecha. Leman shorerai. Hayeshar lefanai darkecha. Ki ein befihu. Nechona kirbam. Havot kever patuach. Gronam. Lishonam yachalikun. Ha'ashimem Elohim yiplu. Mimo atzotehem. Berov pishehem hadichemo. Ki maru bach. V'yismechu kol chosei bach leolam yiranenu. V'tasech alemo. V'yaltzu b'cha ohavei shemecha. Ki ata tevarech tzadik Adonai katsina ratzon ta'atrenu. Mizmor HEH gives insight into a time in David's life where he is running away from his son Avshalom, but it's gotten to a breaking point where even those that he trusted have seemingly turned against him. I want to focus on the many different ways that David asks Hashem to hear him, because I think it definitely teaches us something. In Pasuk Bet, it says, Amare ha'azina Hashem, bina hagigi. Give ear to my words, consider my meditation. I just need to point out how much I love that phrase, bina hagigi. It's a good one to keep in your pocket for a harder day when we don't even know the words that we need to express, but we want the in between the lines to be understood. And then there's also the word hakshiva, hearken or pay attention in the third pasuk. And then tishma koli, hear my voice in pasuk Daled. Not to mention that this psalm has instructions again for lamnatseach, to the conductor in the Beit HaMikdash, like we discussed in the last Mizmor. And this time it's to be played on the instruments called nechilot. The only time in Tanakh this instrument is actually mentioned. Our commentaries agree that this is a type of flute-like instrument that conveys a swarming sound. I imagine kind of like a didgeridoo with music that is expressing that which cannot be conveyed in words, like how David's enemies and thoughts are kind of swarming. And so the request that screams out in this Mizmor is that David HaMelech needs to be heard. The question is why? Well, why do any of us need to be heard? I recently came across the idea that being heard is like a hug for your heart. It's an affirmation that you matter and that you are valued. And that moment when your partner gets what you are trying to get across, either with or without words, reading your mind, wow, we should never expect that, or when a child feels like their parent has acknowledged their need, even if they didn't know how to express it, or when a provider understands a patient's, hears their plight and is able to help exactly what they need. This is the stuff that creates internal and external peace, avoids conflicts in our relationships and in our societies. So why now is David having this strong need to be heard? My husband pointed out that from a purely psychological standpoint, maybe at this point David HaMelech was questioning his own value. If in fact it seemed to him like all his enemies were saying that he was not meant to be the one in power, and despite being told by a prophet that he was meant to be king, he's in a moment of self-doubt in this Mizmor, and he needs Hashem to hear him and show him that he is still important to him. David goes on to show in Pasuk Hey, right after he asks to be heard, how he hears God's needs. It says, Ki lo el chafetz rasha ata lo yigorcha ra, because you are not a God that desires wickedness. Evil does not abide by you. That brings us back to what we discussed in Psalm 4 of how Hashem needs us to need him in order to maintain a moral, ethical code of justice in the entire world. It's also a reminder that if we want to be heard by our loved ones, we need to make sure we are also getting to know and acknowledging their needs if we are to really make peace. May we merit the ability to be heard by those who matter to us and to have the empathy and wisdom to hear the needs of those around us in order to bring peace into our lives. Please stay tuned until after this quick break. This week's learning and Tehillim recitation is for the Refuah Shalema of body, mind, and soul of Gilo Shoshana Bat Chana Malka and Meir Ben Idol, who are dealing with a time in their lives where it seems like things are piling on top of each other in swarms that are hard to be bearable. May Hashem be able to read between the lines and hear what they need and answer with bracha in good time. If you would like to sponsor an episode or have requests, please email me at nursenisa1@gmail.com. Also, if you are having trouble with receiving notifications of upcoming episodes, please join the new Shomea V'Ona Facebook group, where I would also appreciate your feedback. Thank you for joining, and please subscribe and share. This week's podcast sponsor is donating to their alma mater anonymously. Thank you again for your support.